If you're a Cleveland Cavaliers fan or even just solely a fan of LeBron James, it's easy to point the finger and blame J.R. Smith for costing them a very important Game 1 victory in the 2018 NBA Finals. But what if I told you that an outside source may have had something to do with them losing the championship that year? For all this to make sense, we have to first point out a bizarre parallel between LeBron James and the Alabama Crimson Tide. As you can see by the title of this article, there's a weird correlation between LeBron James and Nick Saban championships. And what they mean by that is, for a significant amount of time, it appeared that whenever Nick Saban's Crimson Tide won the title, LeBron won the NBA Finals. And unfortunately for LeBron, the same goes for whenever Alabama failed to win the title, coming up short himself as well. Their championship relationship began all the way back when LeBron was a member of the Miami Heat. As you can see, both sides won back-to-back in 2012 and in 2013, and then they both followed that up with back-to-back losses in 2014 and in 2015. In 2016, Alabama beat Clemson for the title. The same year, LeBron and the Cavs came back from down 3-1 to beat the Warriors. The next year, in 2017, Clemson got their revenge, and so did the Warriors. As we all know, 2018 was the year that finally broke the streak, with an Alabama national championship and a LeBron finals loss. It was a fun little coincidence while it lasted. It eventually had to come to an end. But if you think about it, maybe LeBron broke the streak himself. And I'm not talking about anything that he did on the court. It was something that took place off the court that may have sealed his fate that year in 2018. You see, if you recall, back in April of 2018, LeBron's media company Unnoticed sent Alabama football a cease and desist. In late March of that year, Alabama football launched a video series called Shop Talk, which featured Alabama greats discussing football in the program's barbershop. It was pretty familiar to a series that James does. Uninterrupted has a video series called The Shop, in which James talks to fellow athletes, business partners, and others about a variety of topics. Here's the letter that LeBron and Uninterrupted sent to Alabama, addressing concerns over copyright infringement. And Nick Saban's response was,
"There's been at least 20 barbershop type things I've seen on TV. I didn't know anybody owned that. I didn't even know he had one. I'm sorry that anybody could be offended by something that we were just having fun with, and I enjoyed it, and we're going to continue to do it."
That's exactly what I would think he would say. I respect him as a coach, but I'd be damned if I'll also want to use our platform or try to do the same thing we're doing. The lawyers will figure it out.
The streak ending the same year this drama went down is obviously just a coincidence, but a weird coincidence, I might add. In fact, that didn't stop superstitious fans from thinking that maybe it was more than just a coincidence. Perhaps Saban and Alabama put some sort of curse on LeBron that year and no longer wanted to do championship business together. There's another crazy parallel that fans have started to notice between Kendrick Lamar and the Golden State Warriors. As many of you know, there were some people who believed that the Warriors could potentially win it all again this year. So what happened? Well, the answer is fairly simple. Kendrick Lamar didn't release an album this year. You're probably thinking, what the hell are you talking about? You see, whenever Kendrick happens to drop an album, Golden State seems to go on to win the championship that same year. The Warriors won the championship in 2015 when Kendrick released To Pimp a Butterfly. This is a pattern that followed in 2017 when he dropped Damn, and it happened again in 2018 thanks to the Black Panther album. When Golden State advanced past the Dallas Mavericks last year to make the NBA Finals, people realized that exactly 2 weeks earlier, Kendrick released a new album called Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and as a result had Golden State fans absolutely ecstatic, because to them, that only meant one thing: the Warriors winning the championship was inevitable. These were all the articles that were published before the NBA Finals series against the Boston Celtics even began, talking about what Kendrick dropping an album could potentially mean for the Warriors. And the people who wrote them were glad that it ended up not being a waste of time, as the Warriors did in fact keep their tradition alive. So now you probably understand why Kendrick Lamar dropping an album is usually viewed as a good sign for them, as it raises their chances of winning it all significantly. Next, we're gonna talk about a certain streak that one team has that basically revolves around other team streaks, if that makes any sense. Did you know that the Milwaukee Bucks are responsible for snapping multiple winning streaks of at least 12 games? And here's the crazy part. 5 of those teams who had their win streaks ended by the Bucks went on to win the NBA championship that same season. Here are the win streaks that the Bucks have snapped and the teams they essentially sent on to hoist the trophy. In the 1971-72 season, the Bucks beat the Lakers to snap their NBA record 33-game winning streak. The Lakers would go on to win the NBA title. In the 1973-74 season, the Bucks ended the Boston Celtics' 12-game win streak, who would eventually become the NBA champions that year. In the 1982-83 season, the Bucks ended the 76ers' 14-game win streak, with the Sixers winning the championship that same year. In the 06-07 NBA season, Milwaukee ended the San Antonio Spurs' 13-game win streak. The Spurs later went on to win the title. And in the 2010-2011 NBA season, Milwaukee did it again by breaking the Dallas Mavericks' 12-game win streak, who, as we all know, were the eventual NBA champions. Okay, I know the Golden State Warriors were on a 28-game winning streak when the Milwaukee Bucks broke theirs, and they didn't go on to win the championship. But still, if you were to have a team snap your winning streak hypothetically, you would want the Bucks to do the honors, as you could sorta look at this as a reverse curse. Now this one personally sent shivers down my spine as soon as I saw the parallels between these 4 individuals. Bruce Lee passed away in 1973. He unfortunately died during the making of the film Game of Death, and as a result, the studio was forced to use 2 stand-ins in order to finish the movie. His son Brandon Lee also died during the filming of his last movie, which was 1994's The Crow. During a scene in which The Crow is shot, a freak accident saw Brandon Lee shot for real. Most of the movie had already been filmed. In January 2008, an accidental overdose ended Heath Ledger's life, just months before The Dark Knight was released. The movie was still in post-production at the time of his death. Now you might think that Kobe Bryant doesn't belong here, considering the fact that he wasn't an actor or passed away during the production of any movie, but you'll see in a second how he ties into this. But first, let's take a look at some more parallels that might freak you out. Brad Pitt once said that Brandon Lee had a fear of dying young, which is similar to what Kobe said, except Kobe actually wanted to die young.
This sounds crazy, but Kobe spoke this. He spoke this. He used to say all the time, I want to die young. And
really?
I thought he was he used to say, I want to die young. I want to be immortalized. And, you know, I want to have my career be better than Michael Jordan, and I want to die young. And I just thought he was just so crazy for saying that.
If you didn't know, Nike came out with a Bruce Lee colorway of the Kobe 5s, which made a comeback in November of 2020, and is inspired by 2 classic Bruce Lee films, Game of Death and Enter the Dragon, in which Bruce Lee was already dead by the time those 2 movies came out, much like Kobe was by the time these particular shoes came out. Besides both actors passing away during the production of their respective movies, Brandon Lee and Heath Ledger were both 28 years old when they tragically died. And in their last respective films, they both play major comic book characters, in which they wore nearly identical and very creepy makeup. So it obviously goes without saying that Brandon looked up to his father Bruce. It's been said that Heath Ledger studied Brandon Lee's performance in The Crow. Speaking of studying someone for inspiration, when Kobe dropped 61 points on the Knicks in the Garden back in 2009, it was reportedly thanks to Heath Ledger's Joker.
This is actually the story Rob told that he got confused about, the Heath Ledger stuff.
Yeah.
Because I stayed up watching Batman.
Yeah.
Right. And watching Heath Ledger. And then I went and started researching about Heath Ledger and how he got in the character and how he just became all consuming. I was like, that inspired me to go into my garden mode where I go in there. I don't want to say hi to the janitor. I don't want to say hi to these people. I don't want to talk to nobody.
What?
Everybody leave me alone.
Like that?
So to tie it all together one last time, the person of the performance that inspired Kobe to go out there and drop 61 got inspired himself by Brandon Lee's performance in The Crow, who he himself wanted nothing more than to follow in his father's footsteps, all 4 of which ended up dying prematurely and relatively young. And again, 3 of them passed away within close proximity of their last movie, with Kobe watching one of those movies for inspiration the night before he played the Knicks. And we also can't ignore the fact that Heath Ledger died on January 22nd, which is the anniversary of when Kobe dropped 81 points. We all know that Penny Hardaway, Trace McGrady, and Derrick Rose all saw their exciting careers derailed because of injuries. And you might have even made the connection that the 3 of them all happened to wear the number 1 in their primes. But I bet you never even thought about the fact that the 3 of them all wore the number 6 while playing for Team USA. And to quickly throw out some more parallels, both Penny and T-Mac played for the Magic, while Penny and D Rose played their college basketball for the Memphis Tigers. Injuries, jersey numbers, and the teams they played for are all what made their careers eerily similar. Did you know that every player with the last name Richardson to ever play in the NBA played shooting guard for significant stretches of their career? This Reddit user was kind enough to list them and break it all down for us, concluding with, Richardsons and shooting guards go together like cherry pie and ice cream, and if you have the last name Richardson, you better start practicing your three-point shooting and ball handling skills. It's pretty common NBA knowledge that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar ended his career with 38,387 points. But what you might not have known or even cared to know is that Kareem's last regular season game ever was against the Seattle Supersonics. And why is that even important, you may ask? Well, remember, since the scoring record only takes into account regular season points and not playoff points, the NBA Finals game he played against the Detroit Pistons back in 1989, which is technically his last game ever, doesn't count towards this total. So essentially, Kareem left the scoring record how it was against the Sonics, and then LeBron picked it up from there against the Thunder, which, as we all know, used to be the Sonics. How crazy is that? Some of you might remember this video I made a few months ago where I talked about all the creepy coincidences involving LeBron in the number 38 after he passed Kareem on the all-time scoring list. Well, here's another one for you.
Coming to the end of the third quarter, LeBron James, a shot in history.
At first glance, you probably didn't catch it, but let me point something out to you. LeBron proceeded to take 3 dribbles, then shot the ball with 8 seconds left on the shot clock. Don't worry about the game clock, I'm talking about the shot clock. Now, what do you get when you put those 2 numbers side by side? The amount of dribbles he took, along with how many seconds were left on the shot clock. 38. Again, this was the shot that made him the all-time scoring leader. You just can't make this up. And wait until you hear this. Take a look at the piece of paper he held up after the game. We all know that that number represented the amount of points he currently had at that moment, but it also represented the amount of time he had been alive at that moment. LeBron's birthday is December 30th, which means that he was exactly 38 years and 39 days old on February 7th of this year, just like this piece of paper says. Again, February 7th was the day he passed Kareem. And very quickly, for what it's worth, Kareem was/still is the oldest Finals MVP at 38 years old. Now, if you want to hear more parallels between LeBron and the number 38, don't be afraid to go check out this video.